So in January, we began the session with a great opportunity to continue moving forward for Minnesota. But the House Republicans, time after time, put up obstacles to that and failed to finish the job for hardworking Minnesotans. They failed to pass a comprehensive transportation package despite promising Minnesotans that it was their top priority. Indeed, their number one accomplishment for this session, by their own words, is stopping a transportation package. I would challenge the Republicans to identify a single place where they were actually willing to compromise on transportation, where they were actually willing to compromise on 1 penny of a transportation package that we could move forward with in the state of Minnesota. They refused to compromise on improving economic security for our families. We had some really strong proposals, we believe, that would not have cost a dime, but would have really made a big difference for Minnesota families in terms of making sure they had access to earn sick leave and to paid time off. That would actually make a big difference to families. They failed and refused to extend a tuition freeze for college students when they absolutely and unquestionably could have with a nearly $2 billion budget surplus. And worst of all, they have forced a special session by refusing to compromise with Governor Dayton on his priority to invest in a better education for Minnesota's youngest learners. And there's only one reason that they refused to do all those things. It's because they wanted to keep this money on the bottom line so next year they can give big corporate tax cuts that they clearly wanted to do this year, but were unable to do. That's what was the roadblock to completing this legislative session, the fact that the Republicans' top priority, unquestionably, no matter the words that Kurt Doubt likes to say, unquestionably is tax cuts for the owners of skyscrapers and the Mall of America and big corporate tax interests. And, you know, that's shown again when you think about our efforts to put any money whatsoever, really, into railroad safety. Time and time again, Chairman Kelly said the reason we can't do it is the railroads won't let us do it. Corporate interests prevailed in the legislative session this year, and it's a huge problem. It is interesting to me that Kurt Doubt was making such a significant point about how they wanted to listen to school districts and school administrators. Now, you've got to have to kind of question that when you look at the bill they actually passed off the floor, which was 0.6% on the formula, $15 in corporate tax cuts for every $1 that they wanted to give to the school districts. So his words ring false from that perspective to begin with. But it's really not about what school districts and school administrators and school boards want. It's about what parents and families want and need. And that's who Governor Dayton is standing up for in this fight. If you look at what happened in Wilmer yesterday, voters passed a referendum to do what? To invest in money for facilities for pre-kindergarten programs. They voted yesterday in Dave Baker's district to do that. And Dave Baker on his property has a sign supporting that. You know, this is what the parents and families want. This is the direction they need to go. And the Republicans are standing in the way of that. Senator Bach and senators in January said pre-K was their priority. If you go back and look at the record, they said that. Senator Bach at the end of session said, we would pass pre-K, the Republicans won't do it. So the Speaker's idea that this is the legislature standing against the governor is flatly false. And it's demonstrated by the words of the Senate. It's also demonstrated, and we have the proposal that can close this session out right away. We put a minority report on the floor that would have done 2% and 2% on the formula, that would have funded early scholarships bigger than the Republicans are proposing, that would have funded all-day pre-K. We could do the all of the above. We have the resources in Minnesota. We could make a transformational difference in our kids' lives, but the Republicans are standing against that. So by every objective measure, from my perspective, this session was a failure for the people of Minnesota. We should have and could have done much better. We should have seized a golden opportunity to build on the progress we made after the last 2 years. And if Majority Leader Pepin really wants to compare what happened in 2013 and 2014 with what was accomplished in 2015, we will take that challenge on every time. Nursing homes in 2015, although they invested actually probably about half of what we invested in long-term care. in the 2013 and 2014 session, because there was nothing for the other half of the long-term care in their budget, nothing for the 5% campaign. All-day kindergarten, $50 million in early learning scholarships, more than the Republicans put in. They claim that they put a record amount into early childhood this year. That's simply false as well. Increased the minimum wage, passed the Women's Economic Security Act, invested in broadband, tuition freeze. And again, nearly 2 times the investment in long-term care, $100 million in housing, including workforce housing. Property tax relief that actually lowered property tax in the state. Not a dime of property tax relief passed this year, and not a dime of property tax relief other than for farmers and for corporations passed the Minnesota House this year. Nothing for homeowners, nothing for renters. So if you want to compare those records, we are happy to do that. But that's not what this is about at this point. What we need to be doing is looking toward the future. And what this veto that the governor has put is going to do on this education bill is going to allow us to do. And if there's one silver lining about where we are right now, it's that we have the opportunity to hit the reset button. Just because this legislative session did almost nothing for Minnesotans in the regular session doesn't mean that this special session has to come to the same result. House Democrats stand ready to work together on doing what we should have done over the last five months, which is making sure we make a real investment in education that's going to help all learners, from the earliest learners all the way through graduation and into higher education. We can revisit all of those things and do right by Minnesotans. We can work on a transportation bill and get that done. We can really use this opportunity to move forward on a bold agenda, and we're willing to stand ready and do that for the people of Minnesota.